2019-0029, Triangle Appraisal and Real Estate School was approved. Mr. Taylor moved, seconded by Ms. Carmichael, to approve the consent order, and it was approved by the board. The following members recuse themselves from this case: Mr. Warren, Mr. McGill, and Ms. Scott. The consent order in case 2019-0019 Shannon Lancaster was approved. Mr. Taylor moved, seconded by Mr. Warren, to approve the consent order, and it was approved by the board. Mr. Talon recused himself from this case. The board also discussed personnel matters, which will be kept in closed session minutes. Okay, our next item would be the discuss revisions to the operations manual. Mr. Rogers.
Okay. Just so you know that we generally do this on an annual basis. We did not in 2019 just because we were transitioning council, and this Fanica had a lot of suggestions, and we decided to bring the planning committee into the discussion because there were just a lot of edits. Some were just more wordsmithing, and then others were more substantial and making sure we dovetail more with other state agencies that have similar policies. So this is your annual review, and the way we normally will do it going forward is staff puts forward any changes we suggest, and then if the board has anything they want to add, we'll take a look at it. You do have a summary of what we think are the most substantive changes that were made at the front of your exhibit. The one thing I would add that was added after the summary was prepared and just failed to make an amendment. We did recommend, in discussing with the chair and Mr. Lewis and the investigators, we have not raised the daily lodging in quite some time, so we've been moving it from $89 to $119, and my authority to grant excess as necessary would be moved from 150 to 175. We still, I think we can be under that rate, but we do want them to be able to go ahead and do their job, not be chasing rates per se and having to stay a longer distance away. What we generally look for, just so you know, is something on the level of a Holiday Inn Express, a Hampton Inn, Fairfield, that type of, not a motor port, and so we're just we're trying to stay consistent there. And as you can imagine, a lot of our complaints go where the people are, and that tends to be the Charlotte area and the areas, the mountains and the coast where rates are sometimes a little higher. So we haven't revisited it in some time. It's still, overall impact on the budget would be small. For things like your hotel rates for the place you stay, we contract that annually, and then you do a vote, as you know, when we do the budget for excess spending for that and for air trips, etc. So that doesn't really even fall under this for the most part. But I'll take any questions, or if anybody has anything else that we didn't entertain them.
Any board members with questions? I'll entertain a motion. Approved. Second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the review and discuss the article on hybrid appraisals, Exhibit 11. So I will turn that over to Mr. Rogers and Ms. Paga for comments and staff recommendation.
Okay. I think it might be most beneficial at this point discuss what took place with the hybrid committee, and then we'll dive into the article just so we're clear. The hybrid committee held a stakeholders meeting on January 8th here at the board office. There were representatives from NCAB, NCREAA, the North Carolina and National chapters of the Appraisal Institute, REBA, the North Carolina Association of Realtors, and the North Carolina Bankers Association. And just so there was a, I believe, a misstatement made put out to appraisers. I wanted to make clear who was in attendance. From REBA, we had Mark Schiffman, who's their executive director, and Alan Hummel, and then Ms. Turner was here with Troutman Saunders, and she just took notes and not really participated in the discussion. We also had from the North Carolina Realtors, Seth Palmer, who is their staff legislative issues, and Vic Knight, who is an appraiser, member of their appraisal section. And then we had Nathan Batts with the North Carolina Bankers Association. And from each of the trade organizations, from the Appraisal Institute, we had Mike Elwell and Mike Moody from the North Carolina chapter, and Scott DiBiasio, who is Government Affairs for the National Association. And for NCPAC, we had Graham Smith and Jamie Norman, who are in their leadership, and Lily Van Patten, who is the attorney that sent a letter to the board representing NCPAC. And for NCREAA, we had Chris Gladys, Frank Leader, and David Massey. So there were 9 people from the appraisal organizations. In addition, Mike was an appraiser, and there was just a misstatement that there were far more representatives from other entities than there were from appraisers, and I just did not see that to be the case. As well, we had myself and Ms. Panico from staff, and Mr. Wrights and Mr. Warren and Mr. Taylor as committee members. So just being clear there. The discussion focused on the supervision of unlicensed persons assisting in the performance of an appraisal and how that applies to hybrid and bifurcated assignments. There was still no consensus as to how the statute should be viewed. Some felt that an appraiser is required to supervise any assistance by non-licensed individual, and that requirement applies to the inspection regardless of when it is ordered. And another possibility was raised that appraisers are responsible to supervise once they have been engaged or accept an order to do the appraisal. There was a discussion about an appraiser cannot supervise other parties that provide an analysis that impacts value, such as engineers, contractors, soil experts, etc. There's also discussed that an appraiser needs to have a reasonable basis to believe the information is credible, and if there is any doubt, they should either speak with the party that did the inspection, expand the scope, and do their own inspection, or withdraw from the assignment. The committee met afterward and decided that some guidance is necessary because we're hearing from appraisers that the board has been silent on this, and they need to know what they can and can't do, and that we would proceed with the staff updating the article that we had prepared for, I believe, the September meeting, and resubmit that, and that's what you have in front of you today.
So we have a recommendation from staff as far as a guidance document that is before all of us that everyone has received. I would entertain a motion, and then if we get a first and a second, we will go into discussion on this.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Taylor. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McGill. I will open the floor for discussion. Mr. Wright. Yes, sir. Mr. Warren, you have the floor.
I personally think that the article is expertly written. as far as from a use PAP perspective. And the use PAP allows these, it's obvious, even from the new use PAP and the classes and the way they've orchestrated the education to be focused a lot heavily on these. So I have no argument as far as use PAP goes. They're perfectly fine. It can be done within use PAP. My concern is that North Carolina has one additional issue that other states may not have, and that's that our statute says that an appraiser may be disciplined for failing as a licensed or certified residential appraiser to actively and personally supervise any person not licensed or certified under the chapter who assists the licensed or certified real estate appraiser in performing real estate assignments. My concern is, and I understand that it is difficult for an appraiser to certify or to actively and personally supervise someone that has been hired before he's even engaged that he doesn't know. But I think that statute, the original intent, in my opinion, of that statute was probably to protect the North Carolina public against, at the time that the statute was written, against appraisers having multiple individuals going out just doing this type of work and other work that was involved in the appraisal process without being supervised and without having basically any ramifications if they were bad players or if they just didn't know any better. With that being the intent that I feel that statute was written for, the only thing that's changed here is at what point and who's doing the hiring of these individuals to go and do this work that assists in the appraiser and performing appraisals. It has to be considered assistance because this has been provided to the appraiser to help the appraiser with forming the opinion, and it's done for the purpose of an appraisal. So if it was done by another licensee, they would probably have to be mentioned in the report that it was known as providing significant appraisal assistance. So, my concern is that with the way I personally feel the statute, the purpose of the statute, the only thing that's changed, like I said, is who's hiring these people. And I just don't think that, as well as the article was written as far as use PAP is concerned, I'm not so sure that I want to give appraisers instructions on how to do something that, in my opinion, is against the statute.
Any other comments from the board or questions?
Is it okay?
Sure.
So, I shy away from ever trying to interpret statute. How, from a legal standpoint, how do we reconcile this with what Mike just said?
I mean, I think that there are you can make different interpretations of your own rule and statute, and you can determine that your statute means at the time the assignment, the appraiser accepts the assignment. You can interpret it that way, or you can interpret it that at any point in time there's a requirement to supervise, which would mean that the appraiser would have to supervise somebody they didn't know about that happened before they even provided the assignment.
I'm sorry, Tom, that I couldn't hear you.
No, I'm sorry. I was sorry about that. Sorry, Ms. McGee, I was talking to Sandra. She asked me if I had anything to add, and I really don't. I think she did a pretty good job of explaining that. Question about that statute, the language in that statute. And Mr. Warren's right. When I wrote this thing, I wrote it. It wasn't done in a vacuum. I didn't write it all by myself. Of course, I had a lot of help over the last few months when we've messed around with this thing, tinkered with it quite a bit. But it was under that interpretation that assistance, there's language in that statute, there's certain phrases, performance of an appraisal, what is an appraisal? An appraisal is defined by the statute is essentially the rendering of an opinion of a specified property or interest therein, or a fee or other valuable compensation. That infers the fact that you have an assignment. To have an assignment, that is the starting point. That is when the appraiser becomes involved, and not even really be with the assignment. It's actually upon engagement. Once that appraiser is engaged, I do believe the statute, the wording there could be interpreted that the appraiser is responsible once they're engaged for anyone that assists them in that performance of an appraisal. I just, I've thought about this a lot. The staff has discussed this a lot. We've all talked about this. Is it practical or realistic to think that one of our licensees, should be disciplined for the actions of a third party where they have no control and possibly not even any knowledge of who that individual is or what they've done? Do I think that a hybrid or bifurcated appraisal, that methodology is the best? No, I don't. I do not. I think it's reckless, to be honest with you, but I do not believe, based on the interpretation that the staff has of that particular statute, that it actually prevents this process. I don't believe it does.
Any board questions?
If I may ask something, it might not be an appropriate question, but the statute's been on the books a while. Do we have any clue what the original intent was of that? Was it for training?
Well, the only thing that we know for certain is that it is original to the statute. So, it is as old as the statute itself. That our act. At the time that it was written, we didn't even have trainees yet. So we were, but you still had to accumulate experience in order to become licensed or certified. So basically you had to work as some sort of unlicensed person in order to gain that experience in order to qualify for a license or certification. So I feel like that's obviously some intent there, is because of you had to cover, as Mr. Warren said, you could send out a lot of people in different directions and do this work, and you need to have some sort of oversight of it. And I think that was probably definitely part of why it's in there. I think that the problem does become is, how do you reconcile it to today? And I know that language still matters, even if it's somewhat antiquated. We still have to deal with it. I just don't think it's one thing to say if you send out persons to do work under your company, then you definitely have a responsibility. Here, that's not happening. It's coming out under either a lender or an AMC or whoever is engaging this person. The appraiser's not involved in that process. I know I had heard one discussion point, and I thought was a good one, was, well, if this is for valuing property, the purpose of the assignment when it starts is to value the property, so that's part of the appraisal. But then it got raised during the meeting was this, what if you have some engineering that needs to be done, or for example, remediation costs for cleaning up a contaminated site or something like, these cost figures go straight to what's the value. And an appraiser's not going to be able to supervise that soil scientist or engineer or anybody else. So, it's a slippery slope if we say that you are responsible for everybody that participates in valuing that property, even if you don't have any control. To hold somebody accountable for something that they're not signing up for. Sandra found a part, and I don't want to paraphrase too much, but it was something that says you should not, interpret in an absurd manner. And absurd mean, there's no way to enforce it against an appraiser. We can't stop these companies from ordering these third-party assignments. We don't have that ability. So all we can do is basically tell an appraiser we can't take the information. And that's another, side that we're looking at it from is how do we, and it was thrown out to the group at the meeting, and I've not heard any strong answers. Was any other state doing anything close to, basically making these illegal? And I mean, there's some very strict, strong guidance that, and I think this is saying, you better be comfortable with accepting this information before you do so. But I really don't look at it any differently as, say, when we first started having 2055s or drive-bys, and if you go into a neighborhood and all the homes are almost identical and they're all 3 or 4 years old, and it's pretty easy to make an assumption of what's inside that house. But when you drive out, down a dirt road and it's the only house for 20 miles, it's hard to make some of those same assumptions. And I think here is if all your information that you have, both public record and what they're providing you, and any information you can gather online, is kind of all coming together, then you may have a reason to believe it's credible. Whereas if the courthouse says it's a ranch and the inspection says it's a 2-story with a basement, I don't think you can find the same. You can't just say, well, I took it at face value that was correct, and you had conflicting information, you needed to go further.
Thank you, Don. So I would say that I attended the last meeting on behalf of Mr. McGill, and there were some compelling arguments. Again, there are some trade groups that, as Mike has stated, and then there's the other way. No, again, some compelling arguments both ways. But what I heard that, and I'd like Mr. Taylor to chime in, what I heard clearly from everyone in attendance is we would like some guidance. That guidance may change a year from now. It may change 18 months, 2 years from now, but everyone at the table said we would like to have some guidance. And I think our staff has come back with some guidance for us. I think it's well written, and as Don said, there are some pretty hefty restrictions in there. And just come back to the appraiser of what they can and can't do. So I'd like to commend staff on coming back on such a difficult issue, as I said, with compelling arguments both ways. Yeah, just open up our area of board members for further discussion.
I would like to.
Mr. Taylor.
During this, as a result of all of the discussion, and I am not an appraiser, never been an appraiser, public money. But my background is an architect. The wording of supervising is, I think, the whole key of all of the discussion. To me, supervision is accumulating information from wherever and making the professional judgment that the information you will use from what you've accumulated, all of it or part of it, is worthy of being used in an appraisal. That, to me, is supervision of information coming to the appraiser. It is the appraiser's judgment, and really that's what we're talking about. And to me, the statute is fine because, to me, the meaning of supervision means what I just discussed. There's no conflict. Plus, the appraiser, when he signs the form saying, this is my opinion, that is his professional livelihood on the table. It's up to the appraiser. If it's wrong, the appraiser suffers the consequence. And that's the way I look at all of this.
Any other board members with comments? Do you have any additional comments?
I do, if I can.
Yes, yes.
Because I would like to address the other experts that maybe will hire, like the soil scientists and that. I mean, to me, that would be more of an appraiser verifying information that's outside of his expertise. Obviously, I mean, if an appraiser is doing an assignment where there needs to be a soil study or a cost of remediation or something that's gonna get right into the report, then that would be the verification process of getting more data, which is not the same as, I don't consider that the same as actively providing assistance. That's providing verification. The other thing that I agree that if my issue with the article is not the article. I think my issue with the article is the policy. So how are we going to interpret the statute? And if the statute's interpreted by this board by saying that the assistance can't start until after the appraiser's engaged, then at that point I would wholeheartedly support this article. If the policy of the board is that this is assistance and it has to be actively and personally supervised, then that bothers me. Because I think that the board needs to decide the interpretation of the statute. I think we could probably do that here today without, separately in the article, because like I said, I think that if the two interpretations that was put before the subcommittee, if the first one was to interpret this as it's written and they have to be actively and personally supervised, then this article goes away. If we interpret it in the second meeting, and Sandra, I'm sure you have that with you, that basically says that they're not assisting because the assignment, the engagement hasn't been taking place, then, and that's the board's interpretation of the statute, then I'll wholeheartedly support this article. Because the appraisers do need clarification and correction on these assignments.
Do you have a motion on the floor and a second right now? Is there any other discussion?
I have one comment, sir.
Sure.
If I may.
Should we go?
Given the issues we've had in the past with nomenclature, is there another term we can use for this missile other than guidance? Guidance document?
I don't even think, I know that term's been used here today, but we're putting this out as an article to provide guidance, not as officially as a guidance document. And one reason we opted for recommending a article that would either go in the newsletter or as a standalone send out is because this is a very, and we did here at the meeting, this is a very fluid situation with the government-sponsored enterprises. They don't even know necessarily where this is going to end up 6 months, a year from now. There may be something that needs some, drastic relook at this. And it's very easy to change your take through another article, but where if you adopt the rules or you change the statute or whatever, you box yourself in until the next time you can have it revisited. One other thing I will mention, and I don't want to chase a rabbit, but I do want to make it clear that there was consensus, even with the banking, realtor, and REBO groups of, I don't think anybody would object if an organization wants to go to the legislature and say, there needs to be some control over who can go into people's houses and do this type of work, along the lines of, should they have to have some professional license, or should they have to have, big background check or whatever, and not just, you know, answer I think the term we use, a Craigslist ad on Friday and then in somebody's house on Monday. We understand there's a public safety issue kind of on the other side of this that maybe the legislature needs to address. But this is about, you know, and I think maybe the problem that, and I don't really disagree with Mr. Warren in theory about saying the soil scientist is an outside expert, but the way the statute reads, if you want to read it that literally, is not licensed or certified by this chapter. So it would be that qualifies, and that's what puts somebody that's a realtor or somebody that's a home inspector on the outside of this issue, and that was the argument being made. So to then come back and say, okay, but if you need that outside expert to assist in the valuation, you know, there's the line. So that, I mean, that's where we are. But that's why an article, to answer Mr. McGill's question, an article versus, as you know, I think we had at one time some draft rule of how to do this, and we said that, you know, that might be too much too soon.
Mr. Chairman, need call to vote.
Call the vote. Would you like to restate the guidance, and you would restate the guidance?
I think it was, the motion was to approve the article for publication of the guidance as presented, and that was what was on the table. So,
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
So we have one nay. Thank you. Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is Exhibit 12, Fraser Foundation report, Mr. Rogers.
okay, you do have just the publications coming out from the Fraser Foundation. They announced their new appointees to the Standards and Qualifications Board, new members and officers of the Board of Trustees, and just some other information on their offering of USPAP, and then they're also soliciting for future positions on the trustees. So, and just so you, I think the next AQB meeting, I'm sure there'll be an online opportunity, is in San Diego on February the 7th. I believe I'm going to fly to San Diego for a one-day meeting, but I'm sure they will right now still be talking about the virtual training, or FARIA as they call it. I know we're all interested in that topic. So.
Next item, Exhibit 13, live streaming statistics.
We just received the live stream statistics this morning. We will disseminate them to the board, but we did not have the ability to have them available for the meeting.
There are no speakers for public forum, is that correct?
That's correct.
We'll move to committee reports.
Okay. I think I basically gave you the hybrid committee report of what took place at the stakeholders meeting, and how you ended up with the document in front of you. So I will substitute those comments for the hybrid committee report. I would ask if any of the other committee members have any comment.
Strategic planning.
And the strategic planning performed a final review of the operations manual report, was included in your packet. The committee met yesterday here at the board office and discussed several topics that have been on our agenda for several months. This included the revision to some job duties, salary adjustments, and management developments, and job descriptions for titles. Also, we looked at technology needs of the board going forward, specifically focusing on possibly putting security cameras around the lobby and entry area, and possibly badge access to the building, or at least to get you up on the floors. Video conferencing for committees, and possibly even down the road board meetings where somebody could access remotely if necessary. And then we have mentioned past couple of meetings, but we drilled down a little bit, and so we plan to finalize a policy for next month or in March for reviewing applicant work products early in their experience process. I think we all agree there's a need to be proactive in helping trainees, especially, but even other licensees looking to upgrade, get an early evaluation of how they're doing, their log and their work product, but also not scare them away from doing this with the potential of disciplines if we find something wrong. So probably the guidance that, or the policy we'll put in place, at least in the early going, will be if you submit to this from a voluntary basis for review, then we will seek to educate and train you if we find something in error, and not pursue the disciplinary avenue. If we start seeing that's a big problem, then that, we may have to make some revisions there. But I think the one thing we will make clear, and it's also clear now when we review somebody's work experience, because it's a pretty high bar before we would come to you with a complaint, just on somebody submitting work. We may deny experience if it's not USPAP compliant, but unless it's really misleading or almost fraudulent, we're usually not going to open a case. So we will look to, but we will make it clear that just because you send it in and we don't open a complaint, if somebody else opens a complaint or to send in a complaint, like the lender or the homeowner, then that doesn't insulate you from the process. So we will make that, but we should have a draft for next time.
Thank you. Are there, Gregory or Sarah from the yesterday, anything else that you'd like to add, strategic plan? Okay. And I will make another, ask someone else to serve on strategic planning, as I'll serve as official, and also another member to ask for staff report.
Okay, really don't have a whole lot at this time. Like I said, we did have the stakeholder meeting concerning hybrids on January the 8th. We did have did want to make you aware that the Spring Aero Conference, April 3rd through 5th in San Antonio, which is about a month earlier than last year. There is a one-day training on April the 2nd, similar to what they had last year, the day before. I certainly would invite our two newest members to attend that if they can, and I will try to get you registered. Just let me know. If you are not, Ms. Allfrance or Ms. Carmichael, and are interested in that extra day, just let me know. And if it's available in terms of, hasn't been filled up by new Aero attendees, then I'll get you signed up. I'm not trying to prevent anybody from going, but just we'll put the opportunity out first to our newest members and then anybody else. We will send a reminder, but as soon as you know, if you know for sure you cannot go, if you let me know so we don't book a room that looks like it's being held and we're not, we don't need it. If you think you might go but don't know, we'll book you a room and then we'll tell you when we have to have a drop dead. And that's really all we have as far as staff report. Most of the staff report was this book this month, so.